Hey everyone, this is Brett. Gonna make more videos talking about things other than dog-related content. Truth is that everything is related to the dog content. The way I talk about dogs, teach owners how to train their dogs, how to resolve their behavior issues is based on seeing inherent reality as it exists. And I'm talking about actual reality, like the way we break it down to the atomic level, the quantum level of things, how, molecules form, the structure of everything, systems, not feelings about it, not perceptions, not, I hate using the, well, I do like using the term, actually, I use it often, delusions about it. A lot of people, and again, I'll point it out when it comes to dogs, but this is a base human, I don't know if it's meant as it's a mechanism to help us survive so we can tell ourselves things that aren't true so we can just cope with the stresses of life. Maybe it started when we were cavemen and a saber-toothed tiger was going to eat us, and we had in that moment tell ourselves we were going to live, because if we succumb to like, oh my God, I'm going to get eaten, you're going to probably just give in and die. And it just keeps us progressing. And I don't know if progress is good. I don't know if we're any happier than, I see people, and I was in Alaska living a very basic life the way people live maybe 100, 200 years ago, and they seemed a lot happier, or happiness, content with life. They didn't seem as affected by the complications or the issues that most humans that I see in society struggle with. And I just like to talk more about it because as a human, it's what I observe. I think it can give insight to other people who might be seeing it like I do, or people who are not quite sure what they're seeing. Or, there's some people that are just so far gone. Even again, I'll keep talking about the dog thing. The purely positive-minded people, the woke-minded people, people that are far extremes on either side of the political spectrum or religious spectrum. They get so caught up in their sense of self in it that it literally blinds them from seeing, again, that inherent reality in front of them. And people do that with animals. People do that with relationships. People do that with everything. They do it with themselves. I've done it to myself. I've struggled with addiction, and it's all about just lying to yourself. It's going to get better, or this is going to solve this, instead of being like, I have to sit with the uncomfortable and process it and work through it, and you get better as a person and able to dealing with the uncomfortable, right? It's like training. It's like, but it is only, you can handle it another way, and you could just, even if you're not masking it with some kind of substance or something, you could still just keep lying to yourself. People live their whole life like that. Religion has a lot of basis in that. And I'm a spiritual guy. I believe, if I want to call it Buddhist, I do believe in energy and how things get kind of thrown into the next step or level, or can get thrown downwards. That makes sense, because again, if you tie it into how quantum physics works and how AI is developing, all of that is kind of meshing together, where there's going to be an undeniable reality that no matter how much we want to tell ourselves otherwise, people will be kicking and screaming. I see this again. I have, not even me, let's talk about like trainers that have like even more. They've just been putting content out for years. Like, I put content out, but I'm not showing all my client sessions. There's people that do that. Or again, someone like me who has a lot of years of testimonial, and I do have some, and I'm showing, I'm on my way to see a couple new clients today, so I'm showing reality-based evidence in what I'm doing works with no detriment to the dogs, and that's what a lot of the positive reinforcement people say, is that, well, if you're doing it this way, you're abusing the dogs and you're causing all this issue, or it doesn't work. And it's like, that's not reality. Reality is the dogs are fine. Very quickly, with the things that you're vilifying, the dogs are having a much better life and overcoming their sometimes very extreme behaviors that are just completely misunderstood. And it's all coming from just people not seeing it for how it is. And the problem is, when we don't see it for how it is, and we don't want to, and we hear that truth, we get that cognitive dissonance thing, right? Or confirmation bias. I think it's cognitive dissonance, where you freak out. I can't handle it. Again, like Donald Trump, right? I'll say his name. I don't love him. There's some things I do agree with, a lot more than the other side, but I don't like the guy. He's a maniac. I think he's vile. But I don't freak out when I see him or hear his name and start getting that derangement syndrome that I see a lot of people, a lot of California people, they have. again, it's like, okay, I see this from a pragmatic standpoint where he's coming from, why he does what he does, why other people do what they do. And it's like, I'm just going to stand outside of it and just observe and make my own choices based on, again, reality. The things I agree with, the things that he talks about that are reality based. Other things that are lies and fantasy or ideologies or pandering, I see that too, and that's horrible. What I see is that the other side does that even more, and they try to vilify people like me who are like, neither, because we're just telling the truth. You know, you're racist, you're this, you're that. It's insane. And I'm a single white man who's in his early 50s, who's been single for almost 4 years now, because a lot of people have been trained to think that way, even towards just decent men who are just living their life. They're being the best version of themselves they can be, and they're getting punished for that because we're not woke enough, or we're not giving into things that we know is nonsense, we know is not healthy for the human condition, and we won't be skewed into that direction. Anyway, I was going to talk in this video about something different. I just figured I'd give a little preamble about who I am and some of my ideas. I hate saying ideologies because I'm trying to stay grounded in reality. I don't want it to be Brett's opinion. I want it to be me being an observant, experienced, somewhat educated, interacting with a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life, lived in many different places and different environments with different mindsets attached to it and lifestyles. And coming from that place, just based on experience, as I do with dog training for 30 years at this. Boy, for someone who said they're not going to talk about dogs and training in this video, I've really probably just, for the first 6 minutes, leaned pretty hard into that. I can't help it. It's my life. Look, dog savant, dog savant, dog savant, pouch on the hip, leashes and training collars in the seat. I mean, again, I love it. I'm a dog trainer. It's my identity. But that's an operating system. There's still levels of who I am, coming down to the basic level of my instincts and energies and things that are before I was ever born, right? The thing inside of me that's going to get passed on to the next version of me, or whatever it is that gets created. That's the subtle, that's the shit you meditate to get into and really understand. Now, let's segue. Talking about that kind of stuff, I've had a lot of things unlocked in my brain very recently, past couple days. Somehow, I don't know, I think the phone knows what you're thinking or what you're going through. They hear conversations, but somehow I've been thinking a little bit about when I was put into the G.A.T.E program. And if anyone was born in the 70s, even I think 80s, around 3rd, 4th grade they would do this. And how do I know this? Because I thought I was the only one. It was me and a couple other kids in my elementary school. But now I'm watching videos of other people who went through this, and it's weird because as I am watching these videos and hearing about, and they're showing certain things I'll talk about in a second, it just is opening up these like doors in my brain, like, oh my God. And it's making so much sense. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it's the Gifted and Talented Education, G.A.T.E, the G.A.T.E program. Sometimes they called it G&T. We called it G&T, Gifted and Talented. And what it was you were labeled as a gifted child. You were different. Someone recognized it. Usually it was someone in the school system, either a teacher or an aide or someone. And what they would do is they would run batteries of tests, and then they would, it was like every day I do little, like, take me out for like an hour, but on Wednesdays, I remember it was Wednesdays, they would take us out for the day, and they'd either put us in a separate room or in the library. They'd isolate us, just the 4 or 6 of us, a very small group of kids. Or they take us on field trips. And something I remember was very that was helpful. Like, we go to like museums and learn, but like learn in depth. Like, we learn about one subject, like not just you take the school on a field trip and you just go look through the museum. It was like, because look, I had a high IQ, whatever I have now, I don't know. But we were different, right? But there were other things they did that seemed a little odd, and what people's theories are, and I'm just still learning about and I'm going to ask, I'm going to say, what the hell went on then? Do you remember the G.A.T.E program? So they would put these, they showed in these sounds, and they would put these headphones on that look kind of like 1960s-ish, really weird, big, like square tan headphones, and it would start playing this like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo kind of, and they have audio of this if you do some research, if you're interested. And again, we were supposed to like, I don't know what it was doing. I think we were answering questions, and then they would show us like weird shapes and pictures, and a lot of it was like, from what I'm learning now at 51 years old, was like testing for extrasensory processing ability. Or what some people think was it was fucking with our brains, like MK Ultra style, because some people say that the GATE program is connected to the MK Ultra. It's a government thing. And that's why there were some people that would be there like on those Wednesdays or those out, but they weren't teachers. They were other people, or there'd be someone in the corner of the room observing. Right, so that was part of it also. Another thing that's really weird, and I think it's weird because it's like, oh my God, I do remember that. There was this weird fucking pink liquid. Again, don't think I'm a crazy conspiracy guy because I didn't even remember this until it was, I'm like, oh my God. And it was like a chalky pink liquid and you would have to drink it. They would make, or these little tablets you would chew on. And that, I don't know if they were testing for like cavities, I don't know, but it was these weird things that were that color that you'd have to take when you were in that class sometimes. And it was almost like, that's why I don't have too many memories of it. Like I have memories of going to the soup, like I have memories of like the things that were fun and kind of like benign, but more like other shit. Like I'd have the headphones on, we'd look at these cards with these weird shapes, drink the pink liquid, and then I don't remember anything else, right? Now, what they are saying by, you know, doing some looking around at people who are now adults who went through this, like what did we end up being, right? I didn't get too far into it, but they said that there were like two versions of adults that kind of became of the kids that were taken for this. And again, it could be, well, we were kids that were like kind of seen as different, and it could have been, again, I was diagnosed with autism like 15 years ago, and that makes a lot of sense. And maybe they didn't understand autism, and they saw us having, you know, Asperger's, the higher functioning kids, as something a little different, and maybe they wanted to tap into it. But a lot of us were diagnosed later on in life as being autistic. A lot of us struggle with substance issues, which I did a lot in my life. You know, I think I'm fortunate because I found the dog training thing, but I was lost. I didn't have any direction. I didn't know what I was going to become. Even while I was in my first round of college when I was 18, 19, I dropped out because I was like, this is just what you're supposed to do. No. And anyway, I struggled a lot with that kind of stuff. And I don't think if I found dogs, I'd be so fortunate to, because look, the only thing I have is my career. Everything else is very challenging for me. You know, money solves a lot of problems, and being content with helping and doing, and I'm around dogs. I thank God, because if I didn't have those parts of my day and week and life, I'd probably not be a happy camper. But there's a lot of, so now I want to look more into like, I think what the first version maybe is it became like, I don't want to say like, I know someone mentioned, I've only watched a few videos where they talk about, like, it's talking about more what happened when we were young. There weren't these like long-term outcomes, but I want to, even Reddit groups of people, I want to look more into and see like, well, you know, how many more people became like that second option? And the first, again, I think it's maybe they ended up like being in military or working for government or something where almost like they got MK Ultra, right? And they just kind of like got trained. I don't know. And again, this might be just, that was how they tested us, and the pink juice was for our fluoride. I mean, there's people who say that we're fine. I got a little fucked up, and and I still struggle with a lot of shit. Sensory, mental, anxiety, depression. So, you know, again, is that just my wiring? Is it my childhood traumas? Or is that's a trauma in my childhood? There was one other thing that I went through, and I don't know if it was tied to that, but it was around the same time period where I went to an endocrinologist for a bunch of weird tests, and I'm embarrassed. The tests were definitely traumatizing. It had to do with my genitals, and I don't even want to talk about it. Maybe another video. But again, weird, like experimenty shit that like, and you couldn't say anything. You were a kid. You were scared. You didn't want to speak out, especially when I had a mother like mine who would beat the piss out of me if I questioned anything. I don't know. Maybe she was part of a program too. They were training her. I don't know. She was so fucked up as a parent. I don't know. Maybe they were giving her money to. I don't know. But if anything, the way I'm wired, whether it's because they saw it that way or they created that way, gives me some insight to seeing, you know, observing. They said the kids they would pick for the GATE program were kids who were like observing things the other kids didn't. They were reading and speaking at an advanced level for their age. I remember I was in the library in East Street Elementary School in Hicksville, New York. they had in the library, it was where you put your books. It was like a box with a platform and a spring, and it just, as you would add more books, and it was just to return your books, and then they would sort them on the shelf, it would sink down. Like there were springs under it, and it would just, the weight would push it down. And it had on, it was called the Media Muncher. And again, I guess whatever age I was, and I read that out loud, the librarian, I forgot her name, she noticed that, and that's what I think made me cute. And again, this observing me, I was probably different. I know I was different. People told me I was different. It was just, God, if I was born in the 90s or something, they would have just told me I was autistic, and they would have nurtured me, and I'd probably be a lot less functioning than I am now. I'd have a lot less fucking resilience. So in a way, I appreciate that I was raised Generation X. Anyway, I don't want to go off another tangent, but I figured I'd talk a little bit more about this stuff, give you a little more introduction to who I am, and let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback on this, and if you've been through the program, I'd love to talk to you.